Good afternoon, everybody. This is episode 68 of Dork Tunes, and welcome. So I thought this week we would chat with someone ever so lovely, but I'll ask them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jim Fowler, composer, orchestrator for all sorts of things, most recently Little Orpheus with Jess Curry, which is on Apple Arcade.
And yes, I will say thank you very much for the vinyl.
My pleasure.
I am going to be playing that later. I decided also that I'm going to take these. I have them here. The vinyl is downstairs on the top of the record player, but I've got your note and the pin, and I'm going to frame them. And
oh, nice.
Oh,
cool.
Thank you very much.
Oh, pleasure.
On the floor there, yeah, as a little reminder. So thank you very much for coming on the show. So Jim,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You've done a lot, like a lot. I've been looking over your CV. I'm just astounded. But can you tell me initially, how did Little Orpheus come about with you and Jess?
Well, I've known Jess for a while now. First met on Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I helped out on the orchestration with, and we just had a great time working together on that. So I sort of done various orchestration-y projects for her, and she suggested that we write this one together. That she thought it might be a fun thing to do, which it was, and I think it was kind of up my street as well as hers in terms of the style of music and slightly cartoony.
It's certainly very different to Jess's kind of style. Very orchestrated choral kind of works, and then the kind of, I can see the progression from when she did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and then So Let Us Melt with the kind of choral mixed with the electronic, and then this has just kind of gone crazy on the other side.
Yeah, well, we talked about it, and there was some of it. There was a deliberate step away from the choral side because to stretch and do something different, for sure. There was some discussion about whether there would be choir involved, but ultimately we decided not. And
how did working, like, I don't quite understand, and I still don't, so maybe you can kind of clear it up. How does it go where you're both doing the score? Does one person write one piece and the other person writes a piece?
Yeah, it can be sort of a combination of things, but for Orpheus, we spent a lot of time chatting about, so he chatted with Dan, the creative director at Chinese Room, about what the game was, what the story was, what kind of vibe that they were after, any references that he had. And then we discussed and made Spotify playlists to share with each other, like things that we thought might be appropriate music or not appropriate, or things that put us in the right frame of mind, even if they weren't things that we thought would work for the game, just like trying to get on the same page where we were going. I think we were both pretty on the same page early on, because it was sort of clear from the art and the story and stuff where it needed to go. So from that, we then kind of sat down at the piano together and like listening to things on Spotify and like, oh, this and like playing stuff and sort of playing chords for each other. It's like, oh, I like this chord, this chord, and just playing around and eventually a sort of couple of ideas come out of that together, and you sort of expanding on that stuff. And then what we did was go away separately, and because we live in different cities, so it's not super easy to. And we both kind of wrote up our takes on some of those ideas into sort of first demo things and played them for each other and like, oh, I like this. we discussed what the orchestra makeup was going to be. So we did some tests just with MIDI and samples of how that was going to sound. From that, we were able to share some ideas with Dan, say, these are the kind of things we've got going on. What do you feel about that? So that like initial stage was, you know, generating ideas, was very like together, painting it out, figure it out. And then we decided that probably the best way to go, because of the way it's the game is broken up, we kind of divided the episodes between us, and we sort of took half each, and then from those ideas we sort of sketched out what the music was for each episode, and then we basically like kind of swap projects and tweak and work on it. So I guess it was sort of very closely coming up with an initial pool of ideas, then go away and sort of get some stuff written, and then bring that back together and tweak each other's stuff and changes and be like, oh, I really like that thing that you've come up with there, so then you grab that, put that here, and that kind of thing. So that was kind of how that worked for Little Orpheus, was a kind of back and forth, pass the parcel kind of situation, I guess.
And you recorded in Air Studios, am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful studios.
Gorgeous. It's my fave place.
Yes.
It's always so exciting to go there. We were in the smaller room, Studio 1. I don't know if you saw that when you were there.
All I know is the studio that we were in, you go in the front door, you turn left, and then you go around the corner. Yeah,
so Ari was in the hall, which is the great big room with the old organ and stuff. And Studio 1 is down the end. So sort of smaller space. I mean, it's still massive, but yeah. And we recorded in there with a crazy good set of musicians. It was incredible, such a treat. I think because we kind of decided early on what the lineup of the orchestra was going to be, like how we wanted it to work, which was quite small string section compared to what you'd normally have in an orchestra. And then wind instruments, especially woodwind. So flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon. It's kind of the standard orchestral, but only one of each. And we added in tenor sax, which was really important for us, that it was like a classical player playing sax, not a jazz sound, because it had to blend in with everyone. Plus French horn and cornet. It's like the brass band equivalent of trumpet. It's a bit mellower sounding, as trumpet could be quite bright, and we wanted something a bit softer. So we knew, and harp. So we knew that was our lineup, and we knew what we wanted. So often with a big orchestra, it's all about the string colors, and you use the woodwinds to maybe color how the strings sound or play solo melodies. This was more like a wind band or a concert band, or even a big band where everyone's kind of got their own lines and individual voice within everything. And because we'd made that decision early on, we were able to talk to the orchestral contractor and say, look, these are the dates. And our absolute wish list of ludicrously good musicians is this, if we could book them. And because we were so far in advance, we were able to get in all their diaries. So we just had this like super band of players. And so we got to air, and it was just bonkers. Amazing space, recording in this fab room through this awesome desk, and just this room full of absolute creme de la creme musicians. Such a treat.
Yeah, I remember when I was there, standing in the room, in the actual room where the players were while they were doing their thing, and it's one of the most incredible feelings of my life. And it was it is without doubt one of my favorite days of my life, you know, because in a weird way, no matter what, I'm actually in it, you know, but it sounds so different. They're hearing it right in front of you than when you hear it, you know, through your headphones or whatever.
And when you're in that room, well, there's something, it's like seeing something live as opposed to a recording as well, like a band or something. Like there's something about the liveness of it that adds to it, but also when you're in the room, you're hearing a lot of stuff that you're avoiding on the microphones, like people breathing and moving around and all that kind of adds to the real peopleness of it.
Honestly,
especially
if you see me on the day, it was hilarious because I was crunched in the corner of the hall, not breathing for 3 minutes while they did the thing. It was fantastic, but
oh yeah, it's great.
yeah,
I think music's an excellent team sport. Everyone you have to spend a lot of time by yourself practicing and learning, but then ultimately what you want to do is get together with a load of other people and all work together to make this sound.
I mean, one of the things I've noticed is within our community as such in video game music, everybody's so friendly. You know, I've never heard the words no. You know, and I remember when it used to be possible to do panels, I did my first one at EGX Resd back in the beginning of 2000. Was it 2019?
Yeah, you've done a couple, right?
I've done 3 now. I've done 3. Yeah. I did EGX Resd, then I did EGX, and then I did EGX again, but digitally with Joe and Lisa. And but I remember the first one, and the panel and myself when we finished, and I was so worried that day because I was like, no one's going to turn up. You know, it's going to be me, the panel, and like 5 or 6 of my friends dotted around the room. And it really wasn't like that. It was so busy at one point that they had to shut the doors and stop people coming in because the seats were full. They were 2 deep either side. There were 3 deep at the back. You know, and I was stupidly, I'd left my phone on and it was on the lectern in front of me. And I was just like, my phone was going crazy because people were like texting me and messaging me going, I can't get in, I can't get in. And I was like, I can't do anything. So yeah, top tip, if you're ever on a panel, put your phone on silent, or airplane mode so you don't get disturbed.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. But afterwards, we all went for a couple of drinks in the bar, and it was really surreal for me because I was sat there with people I considered, you know, unbelievable musicians and composers, and you know, the awards between them all were just insane. Like the day after, David Houston got nominated for an Ivor Novello, you know, and then we were sat there and Kevin Penkin arrived, and then Lena Raine was with him as well. I was just sat there and we were all just chatting and we were having like a really good laugh, but I was sitting there kind of pinching myself thinking, what am I doing? You know, it's just little me sat here between all these people who've like won BAFTAs and Ivor Novellos and, you know, all this crazy stuff. Bonkers.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think everybody's people, if that makes sense, even if they're, you know, famous or they do something you really admire. Ultimately, especially in the UK, people quite like going to the pub for a chat.
Definitely.
Do
you remember that?
Yeah, I think, but yeah, I think you're right. I don't know why, but game audio, game music, game sound design, everyone seems to be extremely friendly.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the same across all disciplines in games, and I only get exposed to sound and music people. But
so obviously you've worked on Little Orpheus, and that's been so well received.
Yeah, so nice.
It's been lovely to see. But you also worked on Sackboy.
Yes, yeah. So I, for a long time, worked in-house at Sony PlayStation in London.
Yeah, you've done like Little Big Planet a lot.
I've done a bunch of little Big Planet things, you know, various tracks and bits and bobs and things. I left coming up 2 years ago. But Joe Thwaites is was my colleague there, still there. He was taking care of Sackboy along with Jay at Sumo, and yeah, they needed a jazz version of a Grieg track for the game, and he instantly thought that I would be the person to do that, which he was right because it was fun. But
Yeah,
Yeah, it was one of their, they've got all these covers and
oh,
like Winifred's
honestly,
Crazy Waltz and stuff.
somebody gifted me a code for the game
Mm.
before Christmas on PlayStation 5, and genuinely, it's probably my favorite soundtrack of last year.
That's great. I think they did a great job of like not just of kind of updating that Little Big Planet vibe as well. That there's that there's always been those kind of unexpected tracks that you never would have heard from someone in out Mongolia or something that gets licensed onto it along with other things. I think I felt like they kept that tradition alive, but kind of managed to update it with the stuff that was really tied into the levels.
I'm amazed some of the tracks that they actually managed to get, like Material Girl, know, and then it wasn't even on the soundtrack, and I played it a level and it's David Bowie, and I was just like, mind blown.
Yeah. But I think some of that is probably because they were treating the tracks respectfully, even though they may be breaking them down a bit so that they can do stuff with the levels.
And how was working on that? Like, was it different?
It was yeah, I mean, it was fun. I tell you, it was different working on it from the outside, just in that my connection to it was Joe asked me to do it and sent me gameplay videos and stuff, and then I did it and chatted with him. Whereas, in-house, you're more involved in how it's going to be implemented and all of that stuff. But it's always great doing stuff for the Big Planet and Sackboy and stuff. You get to it's a bit more unambiguously just fun. Games are fun in general, but Sackboy and Little Big Planet is just sort of straight down the line. This is intended to be fun and a happy time. But you don't have to make people sad or angry or moody or feel like a badass. It's just
funny you should say that, because I was just going to ask you about something. You worked, and I have to ask you about this because it's probably my game of last generation. You worked on Bloodborne.
Yes.
My God, I love that game. I'm not a massive Dark Souls fan. Something with Bloodborne just clicked with me, and I rinsed that game to the point where I'm playing it again.
Yeah, I mean, people absolutely loved it. I am so terrible at it that I never, like, in terms of actually playing it, I've never really got very far. I'm just so appallingly bad at it.
I was okay in between the bosses generally, but when it came to bosses, I always used to use a bell. Like, more the merrier, please.
Yeah, that was one of my. It was when I was in house at Sony. I was helping out with orchestrations on the main game. I did additional stuff. I helped out. The main orchestrator was Panka Kuneva, who's great.
Panka.
Panka, yeah. Do you know Panka?
Yeah, Panka's been on the show before.
Oh, great. Well, there you go. Yeah, because there were a bunch of different composers on the project. There were the in-house From Software team, and then Ryan, Chris. And so that kind of all needed pulling together and organizing to record all these people. So I think I was doing that. I was helping Panka out, sort of topping and tailing some things, and at the sessions helping out. And then I orchestrated all of the DLC stuff, the Old Hunters, which was mostly working closely with the From Software composers on their compositions.
I'm assuming they have like their own kind of musicians kind of in-house.
Yeah, there were 3 composers, I think, in doing stuff on Bloodborne.
I think,
in addition to,
yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of music in the game. So
that's one of the things that blows me away is like the sheer amount of music that is in some of the games. Like Ori, there's like 2 hours of music or something. It's just crazy.
Mhm.
It blows my mind where someone like Gareth gets the inspiration from to put all of that down and
Mhm.
all of it be so different, but yet tied together.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, and the thing with games is there's no way with a lot of games that you could possibly write all the music that it actually needs. Because even if you are doing something like Gav's done on that, they're doing vast quantities of stuff. Thinking back to Book of Spells that Joe and I did, that was like 2 odd hours of music as well. But you're still trying to create it in such a way that you can do interactive things with it and spread it out, score people's experiences.
And how was working on Book of Spells? Because that's quite a long time ago now. I remember for the PlayStation 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Wonder Book, with the AR codes and the. Yeah, it was a fun project. I think. I think Wonder Book came along at a weird time for PS3, right at the end, sort of after PS4 was announced and about to come out. So it kind of slipped under the radar for people a little bit. But as a project to work on, it's great fun, particularly musically, to sort of dive into that Harry Potter world. So I wrote themes for all the spells in the game and stuff, which was fun.
So obviously I know that you can't talk about stuff. You know, we have the magic of NDAs.
Oh yeah.
When do you think that you will be able to talk more openly about things?
Things that I'm currently working on. It's never entirely clear, but
roadmap.
I think towards the summer.
Okay.
Potentially talk about stuff. Maybe.
Well, the main thing is that you're keeping busy.
Yes, definitely keeping busy, which is very nice.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that, I mean, obviously the way I work currently has completely changed with the pandemic, you know, because now I work from home, even though I'm a key worker, and I still haven't had my vaccine, annoyingly. Although I did read just before we came on, I did read that they're targeting now men between 40 and 49.
Oh, are they?
The vaccine, so obviously that's a few years away from me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. No, to be honest, I've even got to the point where I've been ringing my GP and saying, look, because my GP is literally 50 yards from my house, I've said, if nobody turns up or did they decide that they don't want it, I am here. I will be there in 30 seconds. So they've got me on a list. Fingers crossed. But I think I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have a chat.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be able to hear something else from you soon.
You never know.
But thank you. And obviously, if anybody wants to reach me, you can get me on Twitter at EvilNoob, and you can get Jim at Jim Fowler Music, yeah. And we will hopefully see you soon. So it's
yes, definitely.
Bye-bye from me.
And bye-bye from him.